Welcome to this episode of Chattin with Staxx. I'm your host, Bill Staxx, and today I got former Outlaw member and former Hells Angel member, Bob and PeeWee.
And he stands up and goes, "Yes, I did."
So there you go. Aggravated assault.
Hey, next thing you know, when we all get arrested for the wedding chapel fight, he gets charged. I get charged because I used my hands when I knocked his teeth out. I got charged with felony battery with substantial bodily harm. He got it for felony battery with substantial bodily harm with a weapon.
Oh,
I told him, he says, "I don't even know they saw it." I said, "They didn't have to." You told them.
Admitted to it, yeah.
You admitted to it.
And it was on video. And you even said that was like a cowardly act for him to do that. The guy was on the ground already. Right?
Yeah, he was on the ground. He was already knocked out. But that makes it easy, you know what I mean?
That's crazy.
Not moving much, right?
Yeah, that always cracked me up. You put different things on you for things that you do. It's like, holy f-. And then they write it in the books. There's one guy in Canada. He does a whole YouTube channel, and all he talks about is the Hells Angels in Quebec and their alleged turf war with some street gang.
Wow.
And he makes a living. That's all he talks about. I can't see those guys in Quebec being too happy with him. He's like saying how many chapter members there are. There's another guy that's talking about this Marty guy in Montreal who's supposed to be running the whole show now in the whole world. And he does the same thing that the Gangsters podcast. It's like, Jesus, like
They put a major spotlight on these people, right?
Yeah,
they put a major spotlight on them.
Yep.
It's like one thing to talk about John Gotti, he's dead.
Right.
No, but there's people that are talking about the active mob right now. People that have no clue what this internet is all about. And they're putting their pictures up saying, this is the head guy. This guy works for this guy. Like, that's a dangerous game, man.
You would think so. I don't know. See my YouTube channel, because I was a 1%er, and because, let's face it, I wasn't a very nice guy. I don't think none of us were, right? I did what I did, right? That's just the way it was. So now when I talk about bikers and biker stuff, I talk about all the riding clubs that are raising money for charities, and all the dice run that are for hospices, and all the good the bikers do now. It's catching on, but it's not blood and guts. So the ones that I get the most click on is still about who got arrested.
Yeah.
And I don't like to forward the cop's story, because I know what it's like to be in the newspaper, and the shit they put in the newspaper about you makes you sound like Pablo Escobar, and meanwhile you barely even chopped a line.
Or they could flip it on you, Bob, like they did me. I walked past the DA, and she's a woman. She came out of retirement to put me in prison.
Jeez.
That's how bad she wanted me. So when they says 2 to 5, boom, you lay that gavel down. I was so pissed off, I was thinking, man, dude pulls a knife out. I light him up with my hands, and I'm going to prison. He's a victim. I don't understand it, but this is the way it is. I turn around. They put my hands behind my back. They zip tie me. As I'm walking by, I walk by her. I call her the C word. All right? Yeah. And she goes, "Hey, he just called me a dirty name." Well, the judge says, "What did he call you? What did he say?" She wouldn't say it. And when he looked at me, he goes, "What'd you call her?" I said, "She's nuts." And I went into the other room. Well, she walked outside, Bob. The camera crews were out there. And this is what she said. And you're going to know exactly how I felt. She walked out to the camera crew, and they said, "What happened?" She says, "Well, the president of Hells Angels has been convicted of felony battery, coercion, and a gang enhancement. And he's off to prison." And she said, "He's no longer a part of the Hells Angels. They kicked him out," which was a lie, bro. I quit. Yeah. I quit on my own. And she goes, "They kicked him out for cooperating with the police."
Oh, they made you sound. I knew you were going to say that.
Did you leave the club before you got convicted, or after when you went?
I left the club. I left the club in 2010. I quit. And then I got convicted in 2014. I got out 2016.
Were you on charges in 2010 when you quit?
Yeah. We
Yeah,
already got arrested. We already got arrested.
You're out on
And
bail.
I could see, Bob, how they didn't want to really pay for our lawyers.
Mm.
When 15 years, man, all I paid was assessments, one guy after another. Man, I was in jail in Sturgis, bro, when the Laughlin shooting happened. I get home, I was told, hey, man, you owe $1,000. Nobody even said, welcome home. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
That was
yeah.
the first thing out of their mouth. But so they didn't want to pay that. And then I started getting the phone calls, which I really was enjoying, you know. Hey, PeeWee, did you rat on me? I go, what?
What
I never took the stand. I never took the stand. I never testified. I said, how the fuck did I rat on you? Well, somebody said in a tape thing that they heard that you mentioned my name. I said, it was this guy named John, another guy who stabbed the guy I beat up on the floor too. And I said, John, I didn't say your name. The cops did. And all they said was, do you know John Merchant? That's what they said to me. Oh, yeah, Bob, I could have been an idiot, just sat there and, zipped up and shut up. So I just looked at him and went, of course I know him.
He's in my chat.
You know I know him.
Yeah.
And he says, did you see him? Boom. I stopped him right there, Bob. I didn't see him do anything. I don't know what he did or where he was. So don't ask me.
Yeah,
That's what I said.
Yeah.
But I said, did I know John Merchant? Yeah, I did. That's all I said.
Well,
So
Huge difference. Huge
yeah,
difference.
he calls me up crying, Bob. He was crying. Did you snitch on me?
And that's the problem, because obviously your club would be the same. You can't give a statement. You can't go in and sit down and make a statement with the whether you're being charged or not. You just can't say nothing. I want to see my lawyer. I want to see my lawyer. I want to see my lawyer. That's all you're allowed to say, right?
Right.
But there's other times where the cops get a guy and he's sneaking around the corner. They don't have to be in the room to give a statement. You know
right,
what I mean?
right. It's true.
We've all seen it. You know, even these guys, when we all got arrested together, there was 30 of us in jail. Now, maybe 15 of that would be the management section of the team and the chapter bosses, so on. And then at 3 a.m, you hear a cell door open and close. And then when they crack the cells for breakfast, you're missing one guy.
You know where he's at.
Yeah, that's why I'm laughing.
You know,
Rule 35, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
and
They take a Rule 35 or something, right?
And the cops are loving it because now there's distrust amongst everybody. They
Right.
Once you're in custody, they really know how to play you against each other in custody, especially when there's a bunch of you. It's a big investigation.
Let me ask you this, PeeWee. When you got out, right?
Yeah.
Before you go to prison or while you're in prison, because you're at that time you're not supposed to talk to anybody that's in the club. Were people in the club reaching out to you?
No.
None of them.
No, the only ones that reached out to me were ex-members, that all talked to me, and
Oh, so there were
a lot of them when they leave the club, they reach out to me and they call me. You know what I mean?
But there was no active members saying, "Hey, this and that is being said," or none of that.
No.
So they kept it like the way.
And it's just like Bob said. When the feds came to the prison, they questioned me on a bombing, a shooting, all kinds of shit. And all I did was sit in a chair and they go, yeah, we're from the Federal Bureau of Investigation, Louisville, Kentucky. Now I'm in prison in Nevada. And I go, wow, you guys came a fucking long way. And they said, yeah, we did. I said, well, you should have called before you came. I got nothing to say to you. And they says, all we want you to do is tell us how the club works. We don't want you to snitch on anybody. And they wanted me to go, oh, that's it. No problem.
Yeah.
They would have gave him money and took him out of prison.
Yeah, they said, we'll give you $5,000 and we'll get you out of prison. I said, man, I'm not doing it. And they said, why? Those guys talk about you. And I said, just because they're pieces of shit and they want to talk, let them say it to my face. I said, listen, I got to walk around with my head high, man. I'm not going to sit here and talk to you guys. Well, you don't need the money? I said, no, I don't need the money. I had money when I went in there. So I said, I don't need your money. and I was already in my 25th month of being there. You're going to get me out early? Get the out of here, you know?
You'll be time served.
Yeah, time served.
Yeah.
So I says, no, I'll pass. And I'll tell you guys this. I was in one unit. John Merchant, the guy I told you was crying to me on the phone. I snitch on him. Well, right on the film, it shows him open up a knife, run and stick the guy 3 times, stick another guy 2-3 times. Then he closes the knife, puts it in his pocket, runs out the door.
Why?
I didn't have to snitch on him. It was all on film.
It's on tape.
And when he's doing it, there's a little arrow above his head, a green arrow showing everything he did.
Everything's on tape nowadays.
Right. Bob's right. So John was in another unit, in the same prison, but another unit.
Yeah.
He was only in there 18 months. All of a sudden, they release him.
And he's the one that did the stabbing.
Right. I think he's the one that took that deal with those feds.